Qiu, who had just awakened to right the wheel-eye martial soul, discovered that the village chief had brought Xiaowu back and even allowed her to live with him. Although there was only 1 month left, it did not hinder Xiaowu's fall at all. After spending a long time with Xiaowu, Qiu realized that his riding will eyes seemed to be more than just that. I don't know how many people would see his eyes differently. Angels were drooling, Rakshasa was crazy, and Tyrannosaurus Rex rode his face reaching again Xiao Wu. Tang San, dare you harm Xiao Qiu? You already have a way to take death. Zhu Zhuqing. Dai Mubai, we are just a joke. Ning Rongrong. Qiu. You are biased. Caught between these people, he had already endured all the hardships, and never expected anyone to dare to trouble him. Tang San, dare to harm Xiao Wu. You already have a way to take death. An expired soul ring. Sorry, I only need to look at the soul beast at once and it has to be obediently sacrificed. Soul bones. Laugh to death, there's no shortage at all. Double martial souls, do you have many soul skills? I'm sorry, I have 1 ring of double skills. Keywords of the novel. Douluo. My Sharingan is not very serious without pop-ups, Douluo. My Sharingan is not very serious. Download the complete set of TXT, Douluo. My Sharingan is not very serious. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Small Dance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Small Dance. Douluo Continent, the province of Fasno in the Heavenly Do Empire, is located in a village called Bio Village to the west of Notting City. In the morning, the sun is shining brightly. 6-year-old Yi Qiuzheng and village chief Zhang Laotu bid farewell to the deacon of the martial soul hall branch. Yi Qiu, who had just awakened her martial soul, didn't look very happy. Life is heartless, but unfortunately this is not Tauga's territory. Otherwise, I might not have awakened a red-eye disease with innate soul power level 1. Alas, watching the departing deacon of the martial soul hall, Yi Qiu let out a deep sigh in her heart. Even if she was unwilling, she had to accept reality. Xiao Qiu, why are you frowning? You are the only child in our village with innate soul power, and you can become a great soul master in the future. The old man Zhang beside him patted his cerebellum melon seeds, with a smile on his face. Obviously, after so many years, another child with innate soul power has emerged, and old Zhang is still very happy. However, Yi Qiu was clear that only 1 level of innate soul power was enough to break through 10 levels. Grandpa Zhang, I'm not just unhappy about this. Yi Qiu forced a smile at him. Ah. Old Zhang sighed and timely put away his smile. He took out a silver coin from his pocket and stuffed it into Yi Qiu's hand. This is gathered by the villagers. Go back and settle down old Yi too well. After a while, I will send you to Soul Master Academy. Thank you Grandpa Zhang, thank you all for me. Yi Qiu tightly grabbed the silver coin in his hand and bowed deeply to him. Thank you, there's no need. Old Yi too also helps the villagers a lot in his daily life. You can go back first, I'll go out for a walk. After speaking, without waiting for Yi Qiu to answer, he walked out of the village. Walking with a cane, I feel a bit ethereal. Perhaps I'm going to avenge the ridicule of the neighboring village in recent years. Shaking her head, Yi Qiu silently walked towards the direction of home. After being created by dimensional trucks, I have been in this world for 6 years. Douluo Continent, a world that Yi Qiu is both familiar and unfamiliar with, originally only existing in the fantasy world of books. I thought I could show off my skills, but it seems like I just changed my world and became a bull and horse. Pop. Yi Qiu patted her head, stopped daydreaming, and ran quickly towards home. But the closer he gets, the heavier his heart becomes. A stone house built with random stones, with moss on the stones and weeds in the crevices, undoubtedly does not indicate its age. He was adopted by old Yi Tu since childhood, and there is no information related to his parents in his memory. Old Yi too became his only relative. Ga pushing open the sturdy wooden door, with a simple layout, several wooden boards separated several different areas. As soon as I opened the door, a hoarse and weak voice came from me. Xiao Qiu, how are you? Looking at the old Yi Tu on the bed, who was as angry as a thread, Yi Qiu's eyes were a bit painful, like a lump in her throat, and her forcibly calming voice began to choke. Grandpa, Xiao Qiu didn't disappoint you. Xiao Qiu can become a soul master now. Okay, that's good. Old Ye's withered face turned slightly rosy. Yi Qiu stood up by the bed, and old Yi Tu also took Yi Qiu's hand. Tears flickered in her cloudy eyes, so, Grandpa, I can go with peace of mind. If I have any future prospects, remember to come back and see Grandpa. Yes, Xiaoqiu will definitely come back to see Grandpa. The pain in her throat made it difficult to speak. That's good. That's good, old Yi slowly closed his eyes, with a smile on his lips. Sensing the weakened palm of old Ye's head, Yi Qiu knelt in front of the bed, sobbing silently. He has already run out of oil and the lamp has dried up, but he can't rest assured that Yi Qiu has been dying. Tears of sadness scattered on the ground, with a faint red hue. After crying, Yi Chudan came to the basin, wrung out the towel in his hand, and carefully wiped the old Yi Tu's body. Then he sorted and wiped out the old Yi Tu carpenter's work. How could it be? Yi Qiu exclaimed in surprise. Bang, bang. The basin was knocked over on the ground, and Yi Qiu couldn't help but bend down to take a closer look at the reflection in the water on the ground. Stroking his reddened eyes, there was actually a comma-shaped object added to his originally monotonous blood-colored eyes. This is the Sharingan. Yi Qiu widened her eyes, is it an illusion? I rubbed my eyes repeatedly until they felt pain before accepting this fact. After experiencing it carefully, Yi Qiu realized that her soul power seemed to have improved slightly. If that's the case, wouldn't it be possible to improve one's innate soul power? Hee hee. Yi Qiu smiled, with a smile on his face, he couldn't help but cry. He went to the bedside and knelt down, kowtowing 3 times in a row. Grandpa, thank you for having a spirit in heaven. Look carefully, your grandson will definitely become a powerful soul master. After Yi Qiu calmed down again and took care of everything, he decided to go out and purchase some sacrificial items and so on. It doesn't seem good to go out like this. Before leaving, he touched his own eye sockets, which were filled with blood that had not yet dissipated. Is it because the increase in soul power was not well controlled for a while? Yi Qiu guessed in her heart. Trying to shut down his martial soul, half a quarter of an hour later, the blood in his eyes finally dissipated. All right. Whispered, then locked the door and went out. With the help of a few people from the same village, Yi Qiu, in accordance with his grandfather's will, buried old Ye's head under the peach tree at the door, which was also his usual place to stay. Twilight time, Yi Qiu, who had already finished dinner, was walking towards the village chief's house. After spending a silver coin, there was still some left. Yi Qiu planned to return it, but he remembered everyone's help and dared not take any more. As soon as they arrived at the door, the village chief's daughter saw them. Hey, has Xiao Qiu eaten yet? Come find my dad. Yes, Aunt Zhang, has Grandpa Zhang returned? I'm back, and I brought a little girl back. You go in and see for yourself, Auntie has some work to do. Well, thank you, Auntie. Yi Qiu didn't pay much attention to the little girl mentioned by Aunt Zhang, and there were also children who got lost in other villages nearby. After nodding to Aunt Zhang as a gesture of gratitude, Yi Qiu passed over her. After getting a little closer to the door, I heard the sound made by the village chief inside, eat slowly, little girl, eat slowly, there are still many carrots. Grandpa Zhang just shouted, and Yi Qiu, who had just entered the door, was stunned by the scene in front of her. This is a little dance. Yi Qiu murmured to herself, staring at the rabbit-eared scorpion braid girl at the table, constantly wolfing down carrots. For a moment, I froze in place. Village Chief Zhang noticed Qiu and his eyes lit up. Xiao Qiu, you're here just in time. Let me introduce you to Xiaowu. Xiao Qiu. Ah. Oh, Grandpa Zhang, you call me. Old man Zhang called several times before Qiu regained consciousness, but his gaze remained on the girl. Carrying a small bag and wearing a pink short skirt, Xiaowu was not afraid of being unruly. While eating, she didn't forget to take the time to shake her small fist at Qiu. After investigation, it was discovered that old Zhang had encountered a bandit when he returned. Thanks to Xiao Wu, he was able to return safely. And he also followed her to the village to obtain a martial soul certificate from the deacon of the martial soul hall, promising to send Xiao Wu to the Soul Master Academy. Qiu realized in her heart, so, this is how Little Dance's identity as a working-class student came about. After Mr. Zhang explained the situation clearly, he brought up the calculation he had just made. Xiao Qiu, you see, there's no extra space in my house, so I plan to let this little girl stay at your house for a while, okay? End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Additional money needed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Additional money needed. Upon hearing old Zhang's words, Xiao Wu, who was still struggling with carrots, turned her clear and foolish gaze towards Qiu. Grandpa Zhang, isn't this suitable? Qiu is a bit embarrassed. This is a 100,000-year-old soul beast, and most importantly, there is only one bed at home. Without waiting for him to explain more, old Zhang paused and said. What's wrong? It's all children. And you're here to give money, right? You child, why are you dividing it so clearly? Take the money back, and the girl will also take it back. Let's treat it as her food expenses. This is a bit unusual, Qiu said, and his expression became somewhat unnatural. To be honest, he still felt a bit moved in his heart. Are you still unwilling? Before he could finish speaking, old Zhang interrupted. No, Grandpa Zhang. You misunderstood. Qiu rubbed her little hands and smiled awkwardly. What I mean is, these money are not enough, we need to add more money. Add money. Upon hearing this, old Zhang almost pulled off his beard. You see how much she can eat, this little money is not enough. Pointed to Xiao Wu's direction, helplessly spreading her hand. I'm not really good at eating. Xiao Wu widened her eyes and glared at Qiu. Suddenly, there was a long hiccup, and I quickly covered my mouth with a blush on my face. Feeling the gaze of old Zhang and Qiu, their eyes became somewhat evasive. Finally, old Zhang agreed to increase the money and made an agreement with Qiu to send them over together about a month later when the Notting City Soul Master Academy started. Under the gaze of Mr. Zhang, Qiu naturally understood the rabbit's home. Along the way, Qiu was in front and Xiao Wu was behind. Unlike Xiao Wu's jumping detachment all the way, Qiu remained silent and just silently rushed on. Hey! How far is it? Xiao Wu jumped up to Qiu and asked with her head tilted. I'm not called, hello. Qiu pursed her lips and expressed displeasure towards the impolite rabbit. My name is Qiu, there is still some way to go, persist and persevere. Humph. What a cow. Be careful not to be beaten by Little Dance Sister. Hearing this, Qiu did not speak. She rolled her eyes and roast in her heart, it's really a beast's nature. Silent all the way, night falls. Wearing a faint starlight, Qiu finally returned home. Wow! What a cute little rabbit. I didn't expect you to keep a pet little rabbit. Seeing the little rabbit in the cage in front of the stone house, Xiao Wu seemed to have found the organization and quickly rushed over to tease it. That's not a pet, whispered Qiu. As soon as she entered the door, she pointed to the bathing area separated by wooden boards and asked Xiao Wu, hurry up and take a shower. You smell so strong. You're talking nonsense, where does that smell from me? As she spoke, Xiao Wu sniffed at her sleeve, his voice decreasing as he spoke, and his face tinged with blood. Can you smell it? It smells like carrots all over, and there seems to be a bit of a rabbit scent. Qiu also walked over and shrugged beside her. Ah, what are you doing? I'm not a rabbit. Xiao Wu quickly covered her chest and kept away from him, looking a little flustered. What a stupid rabbit. I didn't say you were a rabbit, hurry up and take a shower. Qiu shook her head and couldn't help but say, watching her walk into the bathroom, Qiu began to tidy up the bed. Because the silly rabbit didn't have any extra clothes, Qiu had to throw his own clothes to her. Climbing the clothes onto the wooden board and instructing them inside, just put on my clothes for now, I'll rest for now. The other end of the bed is yours. What? We're going to sleep together. What's sleeping together, separated by a distance of 108,000 miles? Qiu shouted inside. What are you ferocious about? Just go to sleep. After a relatively friendly conversation, both of them fell silent, only the sound of water flowing inside. When Xiaowu came out, Qiu was already lying horizontally on one side of the bed. Seeing that the bed was still small enough to accommodate 5 or 6 Qiu horizontally, she was not looking for trouble. But looking around, she couldn't help but say, hey. After calling out but not responding, Xiaowu snorted and spoke again, Qiu, do you have a mirror here? No, I didn't see the water tank under the window. Let's make do with it. After saying that, Qiu turned over. Xiaowu pouted and carefully took out a small comb from her pink shoulder bag, as if holding some precious treasure. Arriving at the edge of the water tank, I carefully combed my hair with the moonlight and reflection from the water outside the window. My crimson eyes revealed a strong longing. When my hair was almost dry, I carefully put away my comb and slowly climbed up to the other end of the bed, placing the small shoulder bag next to the pillow. Seemingly uneasy about Qiu, before going to bed, he didn't forget to put down his harsh words and said, hey. Don't cross the line, otherwise I'll see how I'll deal with you. But when she replied to her, there was a moment of silence. Angry, she gritted her teeth and thought he had fallen asleep, so she had to lie down indignantly. As the night grew darker, when Xiaowu's breathing became calm, Qiu's eyes lit up with a red light as she looked at her from the other end through the darkness. He actually never slept, just simply didn't want to pay attention to the silly rabbit, and let out a sigh in his heart. Sigh, I don't know if bringing it back is right or wrong, let it be natural now. 100,000 years of soul beasts. They are still a bit far from themselves. Qiu believes that as long as the Sharingan is fully awakened, his achievements will not be low. At the edge of the sky, purple air comes from the east, and the sky gradually brightens. Slowly waking up, Qiu's eyes twitched as she watched Xiao Wu lying on top of her. She flipped over such a long distance, isn't even a rabbit sleeping so dishonestly. Gently pulling her down, slowly getting up, and looking back at her blushing face and delicate expression, Qiu couldn't help but feel a little protective in her heart. After watching for a while, Qiu covered her with a blanket and picked up the small shoulder bag next to her. Gah! The sound of the door opening rang, and Qiu went out to prepare breakfast. Xiao Wu, who was still in bed with her eyes closed, suddenly opened her eyes and saw Qiu walking out. She covered her hot and pretty face with both hands and crawled into the bed, transforming into a constantly wriggling maggot. A dull voice came from the blanket, it's so embarrassing. Ah! The awkwardness didn't last long, but was interrupted by the protest of her belly. After hastily washing up and tying up her original scorpion braid, Xiaowu walked out the door. Get up! Qiu's hurried voice came from afar. Well, what are you doing? Xiaowu couldn't help but squat down and ask as she looked at Qiu lying on the ground. Plate support is a method of exercising the body. Oh, it's really strange, Xiaowu muttered, touching her stomach and hesitating to speak. I'm hungry, I've already bought the carrots. They're on the table, they can be washed and eaten. Really? I bought carrots. It was a rabbit, and upon hearing the carrots, his eyes lit up. Why are you lying to me? Qiu stood up and gave her a silent glance before leading the way into the room. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Unserious Eyes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Unserious Eyes. On a small dining table, Qiu and Xiao Wu sat opposite each other. After handing her the washed carrots, Qiu buried herself in the porridge in her bowl and mixed the pickled Chinese cabbage she had stored. And Xiao Wu is also gnawing on her own carrots, with a crunchy taste. Holding a carrot in one hand and propping up his chin in the other, "Hey, Qiu, my martial soul is the soft-boned charming rabbit." "What is your martial soul?" "Riding will eyes." Qiu didn't lift her head and answered decisively. "Riding will eyes. What kind of martial soul is this? Show me it." This foolish rabbit, who had just emerged from the soul beast circle, was full of curiosity about new things. Holding the table, he flipped over to Qiu's side with a single somersault. He leaned his head directly in front of him and gave him a good pause. Is it related to his eyes? Smelling the scent of carrots wafting over, Qiu clenched his fists and felt somewhat helpless towards this rabbit without any sense of boundaries. Currently, he couldn't fight it. "Mummy, look, this is the Sharingan." Qiu pointed to her own eyes, a blood color appeared, and a hooked jade slowly turned. Xiao Wu also met his eyes and was stunned for a moment. The rabbit ears on his head shook and he murmured to himself, "Take a good look." "Hey! What are you doing?" Qiu gently pushed Xiao Wu's shoulder without any reaction. Xiao Wu seemed to be possessed, staring into his eyes with an infatuated expression. Her originally rosy face burned. Watching her face getting closer and closer, Qiu couldn't help but slap it directly. "Ah! Qiu, why are you hitting me?" Xiao Wu covered her face and looked at him with evasive eyes. "If I don't hit you, you'll have to stick to my face, you rascal rabbit." "I'm not a rogue rabbit." "Don't call me that." Xiao Wu was furious. "You said no, you just wanted to take advantage of me." Qiu took a few steps back and kept a safe distance from her. "You're talking nonsense." She didn't know why she suddenly lost control just now, and felt that Qiu had become much more beautiful. Touching her blushing face, she stomped her feet in embarrassment and punched Qiu. "Anyway, you can't call me that, or I'll take care of you, little dance sister." "Whatever you want, I'll go wash the dishes." Qiu waved his hand, saying that a good man doesn't fight women, mainly because he doesn't want to be beaten. "Humph. You're quite sensible." Xiao Wu snorted twice and didn't forget to take a bite of the carrot in her hand. Seeing that Qiu was not paying attention to her, she had to go to the door to tease the little white rabbit locked in the cage. What happened to her just now? Was she under a spell? Qiu was also a bit curious about the previous situation. Although she didn't make any movements, Xiao Wu's rabbit suddenly became abnormal. "It seems we can try again in the future," he whispered to himself as he looked at Xiao Wu outside with his eyes reflected in the water. In the blink of an eye, more than half a month had passed and the two of them got along quite well. The silly rabbit had become much more obedient from its initial arrogance. During this period, Qiu has also been exercising his physical fitness and improving his spiritual and soul power through meditation. Although there hasn't been much change in the Sharingan, through Xiao Wu's perception, she knows that her current soul power is level 4. Qiu speculates that reaching the state of Sangoyu in the Sharingan is the appearance of innate full soul power. As for the more advanced kaleidoscope that follows, he has no idea yet. That morning, Qiu, as usual, peeled off the rabbit that was pressing on her body. Not doing morning exercises, preparing carrots and waiting for Xiao Wu at the dining table. Qiu, early morning. Soon, Xiao Wu's crisp voice rang in his ear, a bit embarrassed. "Good morning, come and have breakfast quickly. Qiu's expression remained unchanged. Avoiding his gaze, he nodded lightly. As Qiu watched the little dance, burying her head in the carrot and transforming from a jumping rabbit to an ostrich-like one, she couldn't help but hold her forehead. This was his pot. After multiple experiments, he was able to determine that his riding wheel seemed a bit off topic. When looking at each other, it seems to have a fatal attraction to the opposite sex, and as the experimental subject, Xiao Wu always loses her intelligence and blushes. Yesterday, when Qiu didn't have time to stop him, he caught him and took several bites, which gave rise to this clever rabbit. As for whether this impact will increase with the evolution of the Sharingan, and whether it is short-term or long-term, these issues still need to be verified. Watching Xiao Wu lose her former vitality, Qiu felt that she should say something. There's no need to take yesterday's incident to heart, it's just an accident. While talking, she filled a bowl of congee for her. I understand. After taking congee, Xiao Wu raised her red face and lowered her eyebrows, as if she was unhappy and angry. Xiao Wu didn't take this kind of thing to heart. This is the best. Qiu breathed a sigh of relief in her heart, but Xiao Wu didn't want to get up. Pop. Her rice bowl was heavily placed on the table and she shouted at Qiu, "Where's good?" "Humph. I'm full. I don't want to talk to you." After speaking, Qiu left the stone house with a cage containing rabbits at the door, looking a little confused. It was fine just now. Qiu scratched her head, not understanding what was wrong with this silly rabbit. Taking a glance at the carrots that were usually not left at all, only half of them were left, and Qiu knew she wasn't full. She didn't chase after her, silently packed up her things, and Qiu had become accustomed to getting angry like this. Every time, she couldn't bear it and took the initiative to reconcile as before. Xiao Wu has temporarily run away from home, and no one has accompanied him to practice practical combat. Qiu had no choice but to finish her scheduled exercise first, and then sit cross-legged on the bed to meditate. After all, martial soul is the foundation. If she reaches the 3-go jade state earlier, her subsequent cultivation will also be much faster. Ah! My little white. Another morning, looking at the scattered rabbit fur in the cage, Xiao Wu let out a scream of surprise, and the carrots in her hand were no longer fragrant. Qiu. Where is my little white? Mummy, it's in the pot. Qiu pointed to the small stove under the eaves. What? Xiao Wu exclaimed, Qiu. You're going too far. Rabbit is so cute. Why do you want to eat rabbit? Tomorrow we're going to Notting City, and there's no one to keep it here. It's not convenient to take it with us on the road, so let's just settle for it. Qiu crouched in front of the fire, calmly responding and adding a stick to the stove. Xiao Wu's eyes were filled with mist, and her teeth were like Qiu pouncing over. Ah, Qiu, I want to kill you. Hey, you order lychees. Qiu struggled hard as she was scratched by Xiao Wu's pressure on the ground. There's nothing we can do. Helpless, Qiu had no choice but to activate her martial soul, her eyes turning blood-red and captivating, pressing against Xiao Wu's face. As soon as their eyes met, Xiao Wu's crimson eyes suddenly became dazed. Stopped and felt Qiu's breath, his face slowly turned red, and he didn't know if he was angry. I don't want to talk to you anymore. After getting up and kicking Qiu, he ran back into the house. Qiu exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, feeling in her heart that these eyes were useful, but at the same time, she couldn't help but smile bitterly. The Sharingan, also known as the Eye of the Soul, doesn't have any dirty thoughts. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Proud Jiao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Proud Jiao. Getting up from the ground, patting the dust on her body, and listening to the complaints and curses inside the room, Qiu also smiled. After all, it's a rabbit that has never seen much of the world before. Even when cursing, it's either hitting or biting. Put the fragrant rabbit meat in the pot, extinguish the sparks in the stove, and stick a few sticks of incense under the peach tree to worship. Then he shouted inwardly, "Xiao Wu, I'm going out for a trip. Please tidy up the table properly. I hate you. Xiao Wu doesn't want to listen to you." Okay then. Upon hearing her reply, Qiu also felt a bit resentful and understood her feelings without forcing her. "It seems we can only do it when we come back." Shaking his head, carrying rabbit meat and some money, he headed towards Mr. Zhang's house. Xiao Wu, who was still pounding the pillow, immediately ran to the door and poked her head out when she heard no movement outside. Looking around, he had already lost his figure. Qiu. "I'm so angry." "Humph." Little Dance, with red eyes, angrily slapped the door panel with a bang. "Don't even know how to comfort me," she pouted her lips, feeling very displeased with Qiu's irresponsible behavior. Turning around, he coldly glanced at the table, shook his scorpion braid, and kicked his rabbit leg back onto the bed. "Humph, Xiaowu is not happy anymore. Whoever likes to do it will do it." Just closed my eyes, my eyelashes trembled lightly. I opened my eyes a few times and looked at the table again and again, unsure of what I was thinking. On the other hand, Qiu is almost reaching her destination. Rabbits are not killed for free. There is only one blanket at home, and silly rabbits still use their own clothes to replace them. It's necessary to set off for the Soul Master Academy tomorrow to buy some things. Listening to the chirping of birds on the road, I looked up at the sky and wanted to say some vulgar things, but I was powerless. I could only sigh in my heart. When the book reaches its end, there are few regrets, many branches and many birds. Bending down to put down what was in his hand, he picked up a few stones and his eyes lit up with crimson. "Try your recent cultivation achievements." Each hand held 3 stones with its fingers, adjusted its breathing slightly, and focused on making a move, shoo shoo. Both hands were thrown one after another, pa pa pa. The collision sound between the stones, poo poo. 4 birds fell. The movements were smooth and flowing, but Qiu was not very satisfied with such a result. "I missed 2. Wrinkled his brow and then stretched it out again. "There is still a lot of room for improvement in writing will eyes. Besides, I'm about to meet Tang San soon, right? Tang Sek's ultimate skill. My writing will eyes are already starving." I casually picked up 2 bundles of blue-silver grass on the roadside and simply tied up the spoils of war. "Aunt John. Is the village chief at home?" "Oh, Xiao Qiu, your village chief grandfather went to borrow a cow, but everything is ready. Just take it back." Aunt John, who was still washing clothes, wiped her hands on her apron twice while talking, and greeted Qiu into the room. Then she took out the prepared things and placed them on the table. "Borrowing a cow." Qiu stood in the same place, puzzled. Aunt John replied in a timely manner, renting a carriage is expensive. In order to save some money, I have to make things worse for you 2 kids to ride an ox cart." "That's really troublesome, Grandpa Zhang," Qiu nodded. He was quite familiar with these situations, and the lives of the lower-class villagers on the mainland were indeed not easy. "What's so troublesome? Don't feel wronged, you 2 future soul masters." Although Qiu knew it was Aunt Zhang's joke, she dared not say anything nonsense and waved her hand repeatedly. "Auntie, where are these words? Everyone has already taken good care of me, saying, no injustice, no injustice. In the future, even if Xiao Qiu is successful, she will not forget everyone. Place the jar and a few birds in your hand on the table. By the way, Auntie. This is the rabbit meat I cooked. When Grandpa Zhang comes back, tell him it's Xiao Xiaojing's old man's, you child." "No wonder Grandpa Zhang always says you can distinguish clearly," Aunt Zhang scolded and glared at him. Qiu didn't take it seriously. Compared to all these years of care, this jar of meat was nothing at all. He also doesn't want to owe them too much, after chatting with Aunt Zhang for a while, Xiao left. After staying for a long time, the copper coins falling out of the jar lid became even more nagging. I didn't dare to stay any longer. It was agreed to set off tomorrow morning at the village entrance with the village chief, pick up the quilt, and run back home in a flash. Near the stone house, I thought that when he returned, Xiao Wu would also calm down, but I didn't expect to hear her cursing sound before entering the house. Just as she was about to enter, Xiao looked at the clothes hanging outside, feeling particularly surprised. Step lightly and tiptoe towards the door. Inside, all the dishes and chopsticks on the table have been cleaned up. I saw Xiao Wu riding on the wooden horse that Xiao had made for her in her leisure time, patting the horse's head and chattering incessantly as the grandson of old Xiao also inherited many carpentry skills to ensure that he could eat 3 meals a day without a martial soul. I have also made many small things for this silly rabbit during this period of time. Perhaps she was cursing too much, but Xiao approached her a lot without realizing it yet. A tender and clear voice came into her ears, "Stinky leaf autumn, dead leaf autumn. It's been so long and hasn't come back yet. They have all packed up and washed their clothes. If they don't come back, little dance sister will do it." Before she could finish speaking, she was startled by the sudden sound. "What is it? Just ignore me." Xiao curled her lips and looked at her with a funny expression. "Ah. Xiao, you're back." His face flashed with joy as he stepped over the wooden horse and was about to run towards him. Halfway through, it seemed like something was on my mind. My expression stiffened, my body froze, and I shook my scorpion braids, turning my face away. "Humph. With a cold snort and a tough mouth, I don't want to talk to you." I didn't expect this rabbit to be a bit proud and coquettish. Xiao looked at her demeanor and smiled, her eyes curved. "Ha! What are you laughing at?" Xiao Wu's crimson eyes stared at Xiao. "Xiao Bai's business is not over yet." Cough, cough. Xiao coughed twice and avoided the rabbit situation. He walked forward and placed his hand on Xiao Wu's head. "I didn't laugh much, just a little happy. Thank you for helping me wash clothes." After speaking, I also rubbed it along the way, and it feels good to the touch. I've said it many times. "Don't touch my head." Xiao Wu's face burned and her voice lost its gunpowder smell. With a simple murmur, she didn't resist too much. It can be seen that the 2 pink rabbit ears swaying in the wind prove that the effect of head-touching killing is quite good. It's strange to say that every time there is a conflict, in some intimate contact, it seems that all conflicts are easily resolved. Such a well-behaved rabbit actually makes Xiao feel a bit unreal. Is the impact of writing Will I's long term? Or is it just a sequela? Xiao's heart was filled with longing. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Is very reasonable, isn't it? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 is very reasonable, isn't it? When Xiao Wu completely calmed down, she realized what Xiao was carrying behind her. Seeing him staring at her in a daze, she felt a hint of sweetness in her heart for some reason. "Xiao, why did you go out? What was on your back?" Seeing that Xiao was still in a daze, Xiao Wu felt that she had just been acting too sentimental. She opened her hand on her head and was very angry. "Hey! What are you thinking?" "Ah! It's nothing." Xiao, who had regained consciousness, scratched her head. "What did you ask me just now?" "Xiao. Have you really taken Xiao Wu's sister to heart?" Xiao Wu stared at him, feeling a bit uneasy. "What's keeping you in my heart for?" Xiao rolled her eyes and didn't dwell on what she had just said. She turned around and put the things on the table. "Humph." The angry little dance gritted her teeth and didn't know what to say, still moaning coquettishly. "Come and take a look at what I have prepared for you." "What are you preparing for me?" The rabbit was curious, its ears perked up, and jumped up to Xiao with confusion. Is there anything fun again? Why are you always thinking about playing in your mind? Xiao covered her head with some helplessness. Xiao Wu ignores Xiao's roast and stares at his clothes. A bright light flashed in his eyes. Is this for me? Yeah, Xiao glanced at her. I don't even see whose clothes you're wearing. No one should be making fun of you in the future. Hee. Recalling the scene before when Xiao Wu went out wearing her own clothes and was teased by other kids, Xiao couldn't help but laugh. Hurry up inside and exchange it for me. Urge her to give it a try quickly, and if there is anything inappropriate, she can still make changes. However, the fact shows that Xiao was overthinking. Xiao, how are you? Are you looking good? Xiao Wu, dressed in new clothes, kept circling in front of Xiao. Not bad, it fits well. Hello. I was asking if you look good or not. Well, why don't you come and take a look at this blanket first? Xiao. She exclaimed these two words word by word, and Xiao Wu clenched her fist, imagining a punch in Xiao's face. She couldn't understand why this guy was always angry with her. However, for the sake of the new clothes, Xiao Wu decided to forgive him this time. Xiao, who had already unfolded her new quilt, turned her hair back and now she was approaching. What are you doing buying blankets for? Immediately, with a mournful expression, she leaned against Xiao and said, don't we sleep together in the future? The handsome guy is speechless, truly a rogue rabbit. What kind of words is this? However, Xiao patiently explained, men and women are not compatible, and in the future, they will only have single beds in school. Oh, that's it. Listening to her slightly disappointed tone, Xiao couldn't help but worry about her future safety. If Tang San still falls in love with this rabbit and knows about sleeping with him, wouldn't he have a way to die? By the way, there's also a little rabbit embroidered on the blanket. Bang! Before she could finish speaking, Xiao was embraced and knocked down by a petite figure. No one has ever been so kind to her except for her mother, and it's hard to control the emotions for a moment. I see it, thank you, Xiao. The soft voice that rushed into her ears, the breathing that hit her cheeks, stirred Xiao's nerves. I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. No wonder Tang San's 2 generations of human beings were also fascinated by rabbits, which is indeed difficult to resist. So kawaii, whoever comes will be confused. After half a sound, it still hasn't been released. It's time to let go of me. I'm almost out of breath. Don't let go. Who makes you always angry at me? I'll crush you. Pressing down Xiao, he was still wriggling his body as if he was about to crush him. His red face was either overpowered or embarrassed. This is really a case of old guilt. Roast in his heart, Xiao's face turned red and he was really out of breath. Rogue rabbit. Don't go too far. Xiao said, a scholar can be killed but not humiliated. How dare you call me the rogue rabbit? Miss Xiaowu must beat you up today. A farce came to an end under the gaze of Xiao's Sharingan. Of course, it would be even better if the left eye socket wouldn't turn purple. Xiao, are you okay? Are you okay? Xiao Wu extended her claws and kept shaking in front of Xiao. I can't die, replied the angry person. They didn't mean to. If it's a big deal, they'll let you fight back. Okay, squatted in front of Xiao, pointing to his own eyes. There's no need, just consider it as a compensation for Xiao Bai. Hey, what exactly are you not packing up? I told you to prepare it yesterday and just play. Early the next morning, Xiao's impatient voice came from the stone house. My eyes have swollen, but there is an extra tooth mark on my cheek. I don't know what this silly rabbit did yesterday. She insisted on using a blanket with him, which was more than that. She even bit him in the middle of the night. Xiao felt that she intended revenge, but there was no evidence. It's already done. What's so bad about you? It's just biting you. Xiao Wu smiled and spat out her tongue at Qiu, making him more certain that the rabbit was intentional. Why are you blindfolded? Xiao Wu looked at him curiously. At this moment, Qiu's eyes had been wrapped in a black silk ribbon, and he couldn't see them from outside, and he didn't interfere much with his vision from inside. My martial soul is my eyes, so it's reasonable to protect such a fragile place, isn't it? He spread out his hands and explained. Protection is indeed protection, and the Goyu in the Sharingan is quite obvious. If someone with a heart knows about their martial soul changes, it is inevitable that there will be some trouble. Additionally, that unethical ability can also be moderately restrained. Xiao Wu looked at the wooden toys in front of her again, such as bows, arrows, slingshots, etc. Unfortunately, these toys cannot be taken away. If you want it, I'll make it for you in the future, as long as there's wood. Qiu pursed her lips and added to her heart, I'm afraid you won't appreciate my skills after seeing Tang San's crossbow arrows. That's it. Let's go. Upon hearing this, Xiao Wu's face showed a smile and she took Qiu's hand, crossing the wooden door to the outside. With one hand covering her pink little bag, only she knew that there was another thing inside, which was a bamboo dragonfly, the first toy made for her by Qiu. Wait for me, she said to Xiao Wu and went to the peach tree. She lit a few sticks of incense and knelt on the ground, kowtowing 3 times. Grandpa, Xiao Qiu is going now. Just as he was about to get up, he found that Xiao Wu had also knelt down. What are you doing? Qiu looked at her puzzled, wondering if the rabbit head was not useful anymore. Can't I kneel down with my mother? Xiao Wu hesitated and replied, feeling a bit guilty no matter how she looked. Muttering something in his mouth, he quickly knocked a few times before getting up and running out into the distance. It's inexplicable. This operation left Qiu puzzled. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Tang San. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Tang San. In no time, the two of them arrived at the village entrance, and at this moment, old Zhang had already set up a cart and waited here. Grandpa Zhang, long time no see. Faced with Xiao Wu's greeting, old Zhang nodded repeatedly. Hey, this girl doll is really rare. When it was Qiu's turn, he had already lowered his face before he could speak. But it didn't affect Qiu's greeting. Grandpa Village Chief, good morning. Upon hearing him speak, old Zhang's face turned even worse. Oh, I dare not. You are the future Soul Master, and you have already used money to draw the line. Qiu paused for a moment and smiled bitterly, realizing that it was because she secretly stuffed money. Grandpa Village Chief, what are these words? They are filial piety to you. Grandpa Zhang, why did Qiu make you angry? Xiao Wu felt a bit strange. It's nothing, come on. This is the living allowance Grandpa gave you too, keep it well. Old Zhang took out a small bag of money from somewhere and put it in Xiao Wu's hand. Thank you, Grandpa. The little rabbit didn't know what rejection was, so it just put it away. Seeing her take it, old Zhang glanced at Qiu with pride and said, get in the car. Hee hee. Qiu scratched her head and chuckled a few times. He was really an old mischievous child. The means of transportation is very simple, with a sturdy yellow ox pulling a 2-wheeled cart and straw covering the bottom, enjoying the natural fragrance to the fullest. Ventilation on all sides, sunshine falling, and panoramic views along the way. Bio Village is not far from Notting City, and at the speed of a cart, it should be able to arrive in the afternoon. Approaching noon, on the ox cart, old Zhang was in charge of driving, while Qiu and Xiao Wu sat opposite each other. The rabbit, which was initially enthusiastic, is now lethargic and dozing off while nibbling on carrots. Moving his butt, he slowly approached Qiu and hugged his arm. Qiu, I'm a bit tired. Wu, he yawned while speaking, but his eyes were bright. If you're tired, go to sleep for a while. Qiu responded casually, blindfolded. Okay then. As soon as the words fell, Qiu felt a heaviness on her shoulder. Xiao Wu's head leaned against his shoulder, and she still hugged his arm in her hand. Just a glance, Qiu averted her gaze. Going to Nodding City, Tang Hao should have discovered Xiao Wu's identity as a 100,000-year-old soul beast. Qiu also had the slightest desire to take her away, but where could she go? He is only at the 4th level of innate soul power now. Even if he can join any small faction, it is difficult to guarantee that there will be no accidents. For Xiaowu, perhaps following the original trajectory is currently the safest way. At the very least, there is enough time for him to grow up. Also, the reason why he came here is because he has his own plans. Out of Qiu's sight, Xiaowu secretly opened her eyes and gazed at his profile, her eyebrows and eyes curved. Suddenly, I noticed that old Zhang's gaze had turned towards me, and a rosy glow had risen on his face, causing old Zhang to burst into laughter. Time slowly passes, and the spires of buildings emerge from afar. The buildings of Douluo continent are mostly in Western style. Wow! Qiu looks so beautiful. Excitedly swayed Qiu's arm, and little Dance, who had never seen the world before, was full of vitality. It's really beautiful. Qiu was also somewhat touched. After all, he was also a bumpkin. Haha. When I first came here, I was just like you guys. Old Zhang became interested and recounted his past. The ox cart stopped outside the city gate, and 3 people walked into the city. When we arrived at the entrance of the Soul Master Academy, we didn't receive the same treatment as the protagonist Tang San. Perhaps we had already been taught a lesson. The procedures were processed quickly, and both of them were assigned to the same dormitory where everything started. Qisha. At the entrance of Qisha, the 2 people who had already bid farewell to Mr. Zhang had already arrived here carrying their own bags. As soon as I entered the door, what caught my eye were a dozen or so guys with blue noses and swollen faces. There is only one exception, although some people are malnourished and not good-looking, their clothes are neat and confident. This should be Tang San. Looking at the so-called protagonist in front of her, Qiu's heart couldn't help but fluctuate. Are you also students of Qisha? Long Tao Wang Sheng began to introduce. I am Wang Sheng, this is our boss Tang San. As long as you defeat him, you can become our new boss. Be the boss. Alright, Xiaowu likes it. Xiaowu has become accustomed to the big sister's position in front of Daming and Erming, and is particularly interested in this kind of thing. And Wang Sheng looked at the boy Qiu and said, what about this classmate? Sorry, my strength is limited. With an apologetic smile, he silently selected a bed and put his belongings on it. Qiu, wait for Xiaowu to become the boss and cover you up. Hee. Thank you in advance, then. Looking at the proud silly rabbit, Qiu also responded with a smile, not knowing if she could still jump off like this if she knew that her identity might have been exposed. Hey! Who is that? What have you been watching me do all this time? Come over here and fight. Provoked the thin and black boy staring at her in front of him in a daze. Boss. Ah! In Wang Xing's shout, Tang Sankai could just come to his senses. Did you catch the eye so quickly? Qiu pursed his lips, is this how 2 generations can be? Hello, I'm Tang San. The martial soul of blue silver grass is naturally full of soul power. He arched his hand at Xiao Wu's standard, introduced himself, and expressed admiration in his heart, this girl is so cute and lovely, blue silver grass. Does it have innate soul power? Although Xiaowu was strange, she made a little roast and followed her self-introduction. My name is Xiaowu, a dancing dance. The martial soul is a soft bone rabbit and also has innate soul power. We're starting. Shoo. As soon as the introduction was finished, Xiaowu kicked a rabbit's leg, launched and swept towards Tang San's direction. The battle began, and Xiao also stopped his movements. His Sharingan quietly opened and stared closely at Tang San's figure. The Sharingan is a combination of the inside eye, the reproductive eye, and the hypnotic eye, possessing abilities such as reproductive ninja technique, phantom technique, and high-level physical vision. Tang San's fighting ability is definitely not weak, and for the current Xiao, there are still many areas to learn. Faced with the approaching Xiao Wu, Tang San also perked up his spirits, lost in the shadows. In the blink of an eye, he dodged Xiao Wu's attack and then used his grappling technique to grab her ankle and throw her away. "Ah!" exclaimed the onlookers, thinking that such a delicate girl was about to have an intimate contact with the floor. Xiao Wu twisted her body and landed steadily, not forgetting to blink at Xiao. Tang San was also worried about coming over to catch her, but he didn't expect Xiao Wu's jujitsu to be too flashy. Seeing her landing steadily, her body stopped in place and said, "How amazing." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Big Sister's Head. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Big Sister's Head. Shu. Little Dance Sister didn't know what martial arts meant. When she was caught off guard, she lifted her small hand against the ground with a high force and swept a pair of scissor legs directly towards his head. Pop Tang San is not a vegetarian either. Both feet were guarded, and Xiao Wu didn't stop attacking. With a force from her waist and head, she drove her slender scorpion braid towards his face. So fast. Tang San was amazed in his heart, let go of his hand, and then pulled back with the ghostly shadows. Unfortunately, it's too late. Although Xiao Wu's knowledge is short, her hair is very long. Hiss! Tang San took a cold breath in pain. The scorpion braid was thrown onto his face, leaving a red mark that almost tilted his face. Take advantage of his illness to kill him. Xiao Yazi kicked him directly from bottom to top on the chin, Baiyu soaring high, with a splash, it fell to the ground. Just about to get up, Xiao Wu stepped forward and stepped on her chest. "How about it, I won." Xiao Wu looked down at Tang San with a proud expression. "I lost." Although he didn't give it his all, Tang San didn't play tricks. He didn't have much feelings for the position of this boss. Moreover, the girl in front of him was so cute and made him feel a strange warmth. "That's great." Xiao Wu jumped up happily, looking like a little adult. "Listen up, from now on, I'll be your boss. I'm Xiao Wu. Dancing, you'll have to call me Xiao Wu in the future." Seeing that Xiao was not even looking at her, I couldn't help but feel angry and added, "And Xiao Qiu, you are the same." Xiao, who had already laid a simple blanket, nodded helplessly when she heard Xiao Wu address him. It was just a name, and according to her age, it was indeed correct. However, she can call herself Xiao Qiu, but I won't call her sister. If I really want to ask why, it can only be attributed to the damn self-esteem of men. Hee, come on, you guys shout and listen. Seeing Xiao nod, Xiao Wu's eyes narrowed into crescent moons were filled with pride. "Hello Xiao Wu." Wang Sheng and the others shouted together, but Xiao didn't shout, and Tang San didn't either. Tang San, who had already climbed up, looked at Xiao Wu who was being pursued by everyone and felt a little happy. He touched the red marks on his face and gave a faint smile. Then he noticed Xiao sitting on the other side of the bed, and Tang San felt that Xiao was a bit different from the others. Ordinary and strange, with short black hair and a blue outfit. The appearance is ordinary and unremarkable, but the eyes are covered. Xiao's spiritual power was different from that of ordinary people, and he was also aware of Tang San's undisguised voyeurism. He politely smiled at him and nodded as a gesture. Tang San also smiled back. "The time just now was a bit short, I didn't even learn the basics." Xiao felt a bit regretful, but it will be a long time. Click. "Xiao San, come out with me for a moment." The door of Qi Shi was suddenly opened, and a middle-aged man with a bitter and weathered face appeared at the door. "Master." A startled cry came from the small 7 mansions, "Teacher!" Tang San couldn't have him, so he ran up and followed him out of the dormitory. "Who is he? It's like who owes him money?" Xiao Wu patted Wang Xing next to him. Xiao Wu, he is a teacher at school, and Tang San seems to have worshipped him as his teacher, Wang Xing told him truthfully. Yu Xiaojiang looked at the closed door of Qixia, and Yi Qiu murmured to herself. Thinking of his theory, he shook his head and chuckled lightly, "There's something, but not much." "Xiao Qiu, what are you muttering about here alone?" Yi Qiu sniffed the aroma coming from her nose and knew who the visitor was without looking. "It's nothing, hurry up and choose a bed to make it." "Oh." Xiao Wu agreed in response, her eyes rolling and scanning around him. Finally, the bed next to Yi Qiu was chosen. "Whose thing is this on top? Take it away quickly, from now on. This bed belongs to Xiao Wu." Upon hearing the elder sister's hair speak, Wang Xing also joined in and shouted, "Whose? Hurry up and take it away." "Yes." Little dance sister, the little brothers quickly packed up and kindly invited Xiao Wu's belongings over. But looking at her own things, Xiao Wu's face turned pale. After some thought, she turned to sit by Yi Qiu's bed, her eyes fixed on him. Yi Qiu said that his fists had already begun to tighten. "Xiao Qiu, can you help others? Xiao Wu will definitely protect you well in the future. You let them help you." Yi Qiu pointed to Wang Xing and the others, and they all held their heads and chests high, accepting a review. Just 2 words popped out of their eyes, asking for a cover. "I don't want them to touch my blanket. If you don't help me, I'll sleep in your bed." After finishing speaking, he fell onto Yi Qiu's quilt, his 2 calves swaying freely. Yi Qiu looked at her in a daze, speechless for a long time. Because she covered her eyes, Xiao Wu couldn't tell what expression he had on his face. Seeing him facing her for so long, she thought he was angry. "Yi Qiu. Be careful as you stand up and reach out to touch Yi Qiu's arm." Unexpectedly, Yi Qiu let out a sigh and dodged her movements, honestly helping her make the bed. Since arriving at Notting College, Yi Qiu has intentionally or unintentionally left Xiao Wu. He doesn't want to be remembered by Tang Hao, nor does he want Xiao Wu to have any accidents. Yi Qiu felt that the reason why Tang Hao didn't keep Xiao Wu in captivity was also because of Tang San. If Ain was too close to him, it would be hard to say. "Come and help." "Hey, here you are." Yi Qiu's voice woke up Xiao Wu, who was still in a daze, with a smile on her face, and she obediently played around. After making the bed, Xiao Wu took out a small bag from her bag. Yi Qiu knew about the bag, which was given by Mr. Zhang. As if offering a treasure, he held it in his hands and said, "Xiao Qiu, let's leave this money with you." Yi Qiu is not polite either. He does need money and will have to find a carpenter in a few days. Time slowly passes by. When Tang San returned again, he had already put on the Soul Guide 24 Bridges Bright Moon Night on his waist and took out a large blanket from inside. It caused everyone to exclaim in surprise, and Yi Qiu was also slightly shocked by this magical scene. It was just hard to tell from the outside. "Wang Xing, Xiao Wu is hungry. Let's go eat." "Okay, do anyone else want to go? Why don't you take Xiao Wu to get to know her better? We still have some dry food." Except for Yi Qiu and Tang San, everyone else has been pushed away. "Okay, Xiao Wu, come with me." Qixia is exclusively for working-class students and its geographical location is not very good, with some distance from the classroom and cafeteria. While listening to Wang Xing's introduction, I hurried on and walked for half an hour. As soon as she entered the cafeteria, Xiao Wu exclaimed in amazement, "How big it is inside." Tang San nodded in agreement with Xiao Wu's words. Of course, this place can accommodate all the teachers and students of the school. Wang Xing explained from the side. Big is not big, it just looks more novel. For this cafeteria that can accommodate 400 to 500 people, Yi Qiu said it's just that. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Random Cloak. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Random Cloak. Is there any fresh carrots inside? Xiao Wu looked at Wang Sheng. There doesn't seem to be any on the first floor. I don't know if there's any on the second floor. Let's go to the second floor then. Wang Sheng scratched his head awkwardly and said, Xiaowu, things on the second floor are very expensive. Let's wait until we are assigned to work part-time and receive our salary before we go. Wang Sheng is right. The second floor is not the place where you poor ghosts should come. A sudden and arrogant voice came from the second floor. Looking up, a group of beautifully dressed young girls were walking down the stairs. Looking down at Yi Qiu and the others, I don't think it's as good as this. I'll treat you to this meal. How about treating you to my leftover food? The joking voice of ha 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 made others burst into laughter. Xiaowu, these are aristocratic students in the school, Ling Feng, Lu Long, and the like. Wang Sheng stood there, daring to be angry and not daring to speak, and reported to Xiaowu softly. Xiaowu doesn't care who they are. She can't stand this bird-like vibe and says, hey. Are you looking for a cigarette? Ling Feng's eyes lit up and he said, oh, I didn't expect there to be a cute little loli among this year's working-class students. Unfortunately, she's just a lowly and poor person. What a sight. Xiao Wu climbed up the stairs and raised her hand to draw towards the person. Armor shield martial soul, guard. A shield was summoned by him, blocking Xiao Wu's palm. Standing next to Lu Long, he also suddenly took action, martial staff, come out. A wooden stick swept towards Xiao Wu, who had not yet reacted. Pa. Yi Qiu took action and gathered her soul power in her palm to block Lu Long's attack. Hiss, it hurts so much. The opponent's soul power is several levels higher than oneself. Yi Qiu held her hand tightly behind her back. The martial rod swung again, Xiao Qiu. Xiao Wu also reacted, feeling a bit angry in her heart. Yi Qiu's eyes, covered by black silk, revealed a slight imperceptible red light, and the illusion of riding will eyes was ready to be unleashed. Bang! Unexpectedly, this time Tang San grabbed Lu Long's stick. When the two were deadlocked, a piece of blue-silver grass was thrown into Lu Long's eyes. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Tang San hit him with an elbow and knocked him over. Pa! There was also a sound coming from beside, and Xiao Wu's palm had already broken the defense of the armor shield and martial soul, landing on Ling Feng's face and knocking down the stairs. You lowly people dare to hit me. I think the school would be happy to dismiss some of you. Ling Feng covered his face and looked fiercely at Xiao Wu and Tang San standing above. Xiao Wu ignored him and quickly ran to Yi Qiu's side. Xiao Qiu, are you okay? She was about to take his hand and check. I'm fine. Yi Qiu twisted her body and avoided her hand. Xiao Wu frowned and glanced at him, feeling a bit puzzled and disappointed in her eyes. Tang San also looked at Yi Qiu, feeling that there was a slight similarity between Yi Qiu's technique just now and Tang Men's capture. Wang Sheng, who had reacted, went over and said to Ling Feng, you bastard, how dare you? Stop it. A majestic voice prevented his movements. Master. The students on both sides looked towards the incoming person. Private fights are not allowed on campus, don't you know? They were the ones who caused trouble first. Xiao Wu shouted at Yu Xiaojiang. But in response, Yu Xiaojiang ignored her at a glance. Third, remember what I said. Come out with me the day after tomorrow. Got it, teacher. Tang San respectfully responded. Do you want to go to the second floor with me? Faced with the invitation from Yu Xiaojiang, Tang San glanced at Xiao Wu and then shook his head, no, I'll still be with my roommates. Well, it's okay not to be independent. Yu Xiaojiang nodded, satisfied with the genius disciple of this twin martial soul. He had a premonition that Tang San would be a golden signboard for him to prove his abilities to the world. You guys have dispersed. After speaking, the master calmly walked upstairs. Ling Feng and Lu Long put down their harsh words and left in a gloomy manner. As she watched the master leave, Xiao Wu gritted her silver teeth and said, "What kind of master is this with facial paralysis?" Humph. Xiao Wu, please keep your voice down. He's at least a school teacher, even though he doesn't teach. Wang Xing quickly stopped Xiao Wu. By the way, did third brother really worship him as his teacher? Wang Xing looked at Tang San. Well, there's still room for fraud. The master's reputation is not very good. It is said that he was expelled from the Martial Soul City because he deceived the saint of the Martial Soul Hall. It seems that the master's name was also the gold he posted for himself, and he has been living here for free. Faced with Wang Xing's kind reminder, Tang San widened his eyes and flashed a cold light, intimidating Wang Xing. I hope this is the first and last time, my teacher. It's not your turn to evaluate yet. Hee hee. Sorry. The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. But Qiu furrowed his brow, feeling that Wang Xing's words were a bit off, far from what he knew is the Martial Soul Hall shameless. How could such a thing as Yu Shaojiang deceiving a saint be so well known to everyone? Isn't the theory and title of a master the result of Bibadong's help in spreading it? How did it become self-proclaimed? Taking advantage of Qiu's lack of attention, Xiao Wu quickly picked up his hand, her palm turning slightly blue, and gently pinched it. Because of Wang Xing's words, Tang San, who was not in a good mood, felt even more uncomfortable when he saw this scene. You guys eat, I have something to discuss with the teacher, he said before turning his head and leaving. Xiao Wu, what are you doing? Qiu, who had regained her senses, tried to retrieve her hand, but was unsuccessful. The silly rabbit hugged his arm directly. Xiao Wu has said she will protect you, of course we need to see if you are injured. Xiao Wu raised her cleft lip and became angry. When pulling, Yu Guang scanned Tang San's back, feeling a bit puzzled. Hey, how did the mistress leave? Maybe I said the wrong thing, third brother said he had something to talk to the master about. Wang Xing scratched his head, he was just telling the truth. How about I treat this meal to you? Okay. What is politeness? Xiao Wu didn't know, so she took Qiu and went to eat. Qiu turned around and said, thank you then. It's okay. The next day, Tang San is taking a leave to look for a job outside. Qiu knows that he is preparing for soul hunting and will also use a random cloak in the blacksmith shop. Tang San, Qiu stopped him, thank you very much for helping me yesterday, otherwise I would have been in a miserable situation. You're welcome, I just don't want to see Xiao Wu get hurt, Tang San nodded and prepared to leave. Why don't we go find a job together? I also want to earn more money. Tang San remained silent for a while before finally nodding and agreeing, okay. In the following time, the two of them came together to a blacksmith's shop. Watching Tang San sweating among a group of old men, Qiu, who had already opened his writing wheel eyes, lifted his lips slightly. It's a worthwhile trip. During the process of forging iron, Tang San not only used the chaotic cloak hammer technique, but also used Xuanyu hands. His movements, soul power operation mode, and so on were all captured by Qiu. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Don't neglect me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Don't neglect me. Although it's not possible to record and copy everything just once, learning some basic skills can also increase one's combat effectiveness, such as borrowing and stacking power. It is worth mentioning that last night, Qiu stole a glance at Tang Sanyi. In the middle of the night, accompanied by the sound of Xiao Wu shouting for Deming and Erming, Tang San meditated and practiced alone, completely unaware that the trajectory of his Tang sect Xiantian Gong had been completely observed by Qiu. The purple extreme demon eyes, who wake up in the morning to practice, cannot escape Qiu's Sharingan. As long as you come a few more times, the purple extreme demon eye and Xiantian's skill can be improved. Qiu clenched his fist. These two things were very useful to him. Purple extreme demon eyes can improve mental strength and also help him exercise his eyes, allowing him to evolve his Sharingan to Sangoyu as soon as possible. Xiantian Gong can help him improve his soul power cultivation speed. In the Douluo continent where there are no other martial arts, this thing is unique to scorpion shit. After Tang San finished his operation, Qiu silently walked away. Tang San, since you have found your desired job, I will leave first. Well, be careful yourself. After waving his hand and bidding farewell to Tang San, the walking treasure trove, Qiu found a carving shop and apprenticed to him. This thing has some connection with carpenters. When carving objects, it requires a high level of concentration, which can also help improve mental strength. Then I went to the market again and bought some carrots. The rabbit gave herself all the money, so I can't let her miss out on a meal she loves. When Qiu returned to Qixia, Tang San had already returned. At this moment, Wang Sheng and Tang San were gathered around Xiao Wu, and Tang San seemed to be comforting her. Did something happen? Qiu was puzzled. At noon today, something in Xiao Wu's bag was broken by someone and she cried for a long time. Wang Sheng's mouth was slightly bruised. It seems to have been bullied by those aristocratic students again. Xiao Wu held the small bag to her chest and tearfully glanced at Qiu standing next to her. Qiu also looked at her, glanced at the small bag in her arms, and didn't pay much attention to her. After putting down the package, she went out again. Qiu, you have the best relationship with Xiao Wu. Don't you comfort Xiao Wu? Tang San called out to him. Please comfort me, there is still something to do with the job I just found. Click. After speaking, he left Qixia. Tang San opened his mouth and wanted to speak up to stop Qiu from leaving, but when it came to his mouth, he didn't say anything. Seeing this, Xiao Wu lowered her head again, and the originally upright rabbit ears also felt a bit lethargic. Tears as big as beans slid onto the cotton quilt printed with the little white rabbit. This pear blossom with rain, I still pity at first sight. Tang San was hit hard by 10,000 tons in his heart, comforted with a soft voice. Xiao Wu, don't cry, I will avenge you. Tang San, who has been a person for 2 generations, has never experienced these things before. He even took out the radish that the master asked him to prepare for Luo Sanpao. Look, I bought you your favorite carrot. The white radish tastes the worst. You all leave me alone, Xiao Wu shouted and covered the blanket, a dull voice coming from inside. Let me be alone, sobbed. The people around shook their heads as they looked at each other. Qiu is really going too far. Wang Sheng complained bitterly. Xiao Wu takes care of him the most. Is that what happens? Alright, let's go to class. Xiao Wu should be fine when we come back. Tang San felt a little relieved for some reason. With a hot head, he turned to Xiao Wu and said, Xiao Wu, these radishes are left here. If you're hungry, get lost. Xiao Wu shouted angrily, interrupting his words. Wang Sheng covered his face on the side, my third brother. He just said that white radishes are bad to eat, and you forgot about your feelings when you turned around. Pulling Tang San away with an awkward expression, everyone went to class together. Qixia became empty, with only a little rabbit crying alone under the blanket. The sobbing sound lasted for a long time, and Xiao Wu became increasingly sad as she thought about it. Qiu. I hate you. Really. Really. Xiao Wu shouted loudly in the bed when she suddenly realized something was wrong. The quilt, which was originally twitching, had no movement. Qiu's voice suddenly sounded, catching her off guard. What are you doing back here? I don't want to talk to you. Ignoring Xiao Wu's voice, he picked up and sat by her bed. Are you planning to talk to me like this? Humph. Facing Xiao Wu's cold snort, Qiu gently patted the blanket that covered her. I went out to get tools just now. Don't you want to fix the comb your mother left for you? Qiu waited quietly for Xiao Wu's reply, really? Really? When I came back just now, I even bought you my favorite carrot. Bang bang. Qiu took out a carrot from the package and took a bite by herself. I'll finish it before I come out. How dare you? Xiao Wu, with a crying voice, crawled out of the blanket, grabbed Qiu's collar, and looked at him fiercely. I'm crying like this, you still want to anger me? Looking at Xiao Wu's current appearance through the black silk ribbon, Qiu couldn't resist it. Her eyes were a bit swollen and red, and 2 tear marks streaked her cheeks, making her look haggard. Slowly extend your hand and apply it to her pretty face, gently scratching the corners of your eyes with your thumb. Hee hee. Xiao Wu's face is crying. The pink rabbit ears were swaying haphazardly on her head, and Qiu suddenly felt that Xiao Wu's face felt a bit hot to the touch. Grasping Qiu's hand, Xiao Wu looked at him seriously and said, I won't call you Xiao Qiu anymore. Don't ignore me, okay? What are you thinking? Just a title, I'm not so stingy. Then why did you suddenly become unwilling to talk to me? Thinking of these things, she felt a wave of grievance in her heart, and tears began to drip from the corners of her eyes. How could I ignore you? Didn't I come to comfort you? Qiu raised her eyebrows, not intending to tell her about some things. Really? Really, I was thinking of buying you carrots when I went out. That's good. Xiao Qiu, embracing Qiu's neck, leaning against his shoulder. Qiu also gently hugged her and patted her back. Alright, take out the things and I'll fix them for you. Humph, there are still carrots here. Release Xiao Wu and place the bag containing carrots in front of her. Give me that one. Qiu looked at her strangely. You didn't eat again, so you took a bite. Don't waste it, Xiao Wu explained hesitantly. Qiu didn't want to dwell too much on such a small matter and handed over the carrot she had nibbled on. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, fiddling with the comb in her hand, Xiao Wu leaned against his shoulder, silently nibbling on the carrots. Looking at Qiu, she felt that the carrots in her mouth were particularly sweet. For a long time, Qiu repaired her comb and thoughtfully pasted a little white rabbit on the cracked area. It's fixed, are you satisfied with it? That's great. It looks even better than before, Xiao Wu nodded quickly. Hand her the comb and say, then I'll return these tools first. Wait a minute. There's one more thing that needs to be repaired. What thing? Qiu wondered, isn't there only one comb inside? And there's also this. The bamboo dragonfly you made for me. His crimson eyes looked firmly at him, not avoiding or flashing. Qiu was taken aback and said, make a new one in the future. It's different, that's all I want. Okay. Seeing that the rabbit was not good enough, Qiu had no choice but to follow her. Fortunately, the pole below broke, otherwise it wouldn't be easy to repair. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Perspective I. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Perspective I. It has been over a year since I arrived in Notting City, just like a passing horse. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, Qiu opened her eyes and picked up Xiao Wu's small mirror next to her. Finally, ergo you. Qiu couldn't help but smile at the corner of her mouth, unable to help but marvel at the effectiveness of Xiantian Gong and Zgmo Tong. The evolution of the Sharingan has increased its soul power from level 6 to level 8, and its cultivation speed has reached level 7 of innate soul power. The cultivation speed will only get faster and faster in the future. Glancing at Xiao Wu who was still asleep, he glanced at Tang San's empty bed. Qiu also tied the black silk cloth back and quickly got up. The purple energy in the morning should not be missed, which can greatly improve the cultivation speed of the purple extreme demon eye. For over a year now, he has been living a fulfilling life every day. When the early sun rose during the day, when Tang San left, he also followed and secretly practiced the purple extreme demon eye. In the morning, he listened attentively to the class, but without a good teacher, he could only listen well. He still lacked some knowledge about soul masters. There is no need to worry about soul beasts, as they have been around for 100,000 years, and asking questions from time to time has also benefited greatly. In the afternoon, he went to work as a carving apprentice. With the blessing of his Sharingan, his carving works have become somewhat famous, and he even has his own work studio. At night, it's time to practice well, or to accompany Xiao Wu for a stroll or a sparring. Since the day Tang San obtained the soul ring, after Xiao Wu and Tang San defeated the group of people like Xiao Qiu, Xiao Wu has become the elder sister of Nodding College. In order for Qiu to spend more time playing with her, he also assigned his work in the college to others. When passing by Xiao Wu's bedside, she tidied up the quilt she had kicked off. Go outside and find the treetop where you often stay. First, use your riding wheel eyes to look around and make sure there is no one around before starting to practice. At the beginning of the morning sun's rise, thin strands of purple air gushed out, surging from the east, unveiling the black thread from his eyes. The black pupils turned into blood, and the two black jade particles slowly rotated. The black pupils in the middle of the jade particles showed a purple hue. Perhaps influenced by the purple extreme magic eye, when the Sharingan is turned on, the originally black pupils between Goyu become purple, and even have the function of perspective when concentrating. For this change, Qiu can only attribute it to a mutation in the martial soul. Whether this mutation is good or bad, well, there are still many benefits, but it becomes more and more unprofessional. It's better not to disclose this ability, as it can easily lead to misunderstandings. The existence of purple qi was relatively brief, and soon Qiu finished his cultivation. When he returned, Xiao Wu had already risen. Xiao Qiu just opened the door of the dormitory, her delicate body attacked and bumped into her chest. Xiao Wu, I've said it many times, girls should be more reserved. Qiu helplessly wanted to push her away. Got it. Qiu looked at her speechlessly. The rabbit's mouth was deceiving, and he said he knew, but he hugged her even tighter. Oh, mistress, you're back too. Xiao Wu looked at Tang San at the door and let go of Qiu. Good morning, Xiao Wu. Tang San smiled and waved at Xiao Wu. Also, Qiu. When looking at Qiu, Tang San's face was a bit stiff and unnatural. He had already begun to see Qiu as a rival in love. Fortunately, Qiu didn't pay much attention to this anymore. Since replicating Tang San's martial arts, he had predicted that in the future, if exposed, there would definitely be a scene where either you die or I live. The concept of the sect has penetrated deeply into the bone marrow of Tang San. However, as a classmate and also a roommate, Qiu is usually polite to him and nods to show respect. You're back just in time, let's go to class together. Xiao Wu picked up Qiu's hand and was about to set off. No. I have something else to do. Qiu apologetically smiled and withdrew her hand to refuse. Why are you busy again? She stomped her feet angrily, expressing dissatisfaction with Qiu's behavior and not knowing how to spend more time with her. Qiu, if you have any difficulties, you can tell me, maybe I can help. Tang Sanchao's eyes lit up with politeness. He also extended a helping hand to Qiu. If you could help me, I would be happy, but cultivation is ultimately my own business. Qiu pulled down her face, frowned, and a sense of melancholy arose. She continued, you are almost reaching level 20, and I don't even have level 10. Of course, I need to double my efforts to cultivate. Xiao Wu can protect you. Xiao Wu said. Faced with the silly rabbit's words, Qiu had no fluctuation, but Tang San's words almost made him live in Bengbu. I can protect you with Xiao Wu. Tang San's voice became increasingly quiet, and he was unsure. Qiu exclaimed in her heart, good guy, when will Tang San also have such thoughts? No need to say more, you guys go to class. Turning around and waving, he skillfully walked away. In fact, Qiu would say this every other month, constantly exposing her weaknesses. The purpose of doing this is nothing more than to reassure Tang San that he is not worthy of Xiaowu, and he still has a chance. Let Tang Hao in the dark rest assured that he is not worthy of the 100,000-year soul ring and has little competitiveness compared to his son. Their father and son can't even tolerate a useless person below level 10, can they? Qiu's silhouette slowly fades away. Xiao Wu looked at Qiu, and Tang San looked at Xiao Wu. The time when Tang San understood his intentions in the original work is completely different. Perhaps this is what is called the eternal turmoil that cannot be obtained. After more than a year of getting along, Tang San felt that Xiaowu was the person who could keep him guard for a lifetime. He didn't understand why Xiaowu always adhered to that guy Qiu. Although Qiu was so ordinary, he was so confident that he was so much better than Qiu. However, he will not give up. With Qiu's talent, the distance between him and Xiaowu will only get bigger and bigger. Thinking about these things, Tang San suddenly felt that his soul power was about to break through. If Qiu knew, he would definitely shout out, truly worthy of being the protagonist. Xiaowu, let's go to class. Tang San's words brought Xiaowu back to her senses. Well, let's go. Just ignore that guy. Ah. Okay. Upon hearing these words, Tang San felt a sense of joy in his heart. He nodded repeatedly, followed her footsteps quickly, walked side by side, and looked at Xiao Wu's side face, which was a bit dark due to years of forging iron. An ugly smile appeared on his face. I completely don't know, ignore him, is just Xiao Wu's catchphrase for Qiu. When she sees Qiu, she can't help but stick it on. Meanwhile, Qiu, who had already left Nodding College, had arrived on the street and was walking towards a mining shop. The silly rabbit is really naive. If her identity is exposed, it's hard to say who will protect who. Qiu gave a bitter smile, feeling a lot of pressure. Even though he had reached level 8, he needed to prepare for his first round. Half a quarter of an hour later, I finally arrived at my destination, next to the boss who was unloading the goods. Boss, is the saltpeter I was looking for last time in stock? It's you, little brother. With it, come with me. He still had a good impression of Qiu, a strange guest. At first, he had a misunderstanding, thinking that Qiu was blind. After all, no serious person would tie their eyes with black silk. Qiu. People are serious, but these eyes are not serious. End of this chapter.